Hi everybody, I'm Deborah Liang, the CEO of the RegTech Association, or the RTA as we're known. We're a non-profit industry association headquartered in Australia with 150 organisational members who are committed to accelerating adoption of RegTech and creating a global centre of excellence. I'm really pleased to announce this new video/podcast series today called RegTech Matters. And it's a virtual extension of some of the sessions that we've been running over the past few weeks on topical issues. Today's discussion is called Bringing Global Local. And this has particular resonance for us right now as we are seeing unprecedented numbers from regulators, technologies and buyers attending our sessions. We've had something like 1,500 people from 25 countries over the last 8 weeks alone. With us being in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis and starting to see some recovery taking place, there's also some key themes emerging. And one of those is the uncertainty of the business environment right now. And it would be good for us to look to those who have a really good helicopter view of the business environment right now and ask them to come and share some of their insights. So we thought the time was right for us to invite our special guest today. His name is Liang, and he's the Director of Data and the National Lead for RegTech for KPMG in Australia. Will is a technologist with over 10 years experience leading technology advisory and digital transformation programs. Prior to joining KPMG, Will served as 3 years as the head of technology for Macquarie Capital, Australia, New Zealand and Asia. And KPMG are members of the RegTech Association. So it's my very great pleasure to welcome you, Will. Hi.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for the introduction. What a great morning to talk to you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. So, Will, I thought there were a few questions, and you have such good oversight on the industry right now. And I thought we'd start off by saying, why does RegTech matter to KPMG, to you, to your organisation, and perhaps as an extension of that, why should it matter to your clients?
Yeah, absolutely, Deborah. I think from a personal perspective, I've spent most of my career in a heavily regulated environment, right? I've seen the suffering, right? If not handled well, regulations can really have significant impact on innovation, on productivity, and in some extreme cases, the morality of employees, right? They are there for the right reason. We all know that, of course, but organizations really struggle to respond to regulations in an efficient and cost-effective way. That's where I think technology can really help, and I'm very passionate about that. In KPMG, we are all for our clients, right? We are a very client-centric company, and we have very strong risk consulting business in Australia. RegTech has been a huge focus in the last 12 months or so. We are looking at how we can bring the best technology solution to our client. In some cases, we use our own technology solutions, whether it's developed in Australia or developed by other member firms globally in KPMG. But in many other cases, we partner with solution providers in the RegTech space to bring the best for our client.
And with the current crisis around us right now with COVID-19, presenting challenges for RegTech, in particular for the vendors and perhaps for the regulated entities. Perhaps you could give us a bit of insight around what some of those challenges might be. And is there a silver lining in COVID-19, as we emerge into recovery? What do you see are the opportunities?
Love that you use the word silver lining. Definitely silver lining. I think there's a small one and a big one, right? And look in my view, in the grand scheme of things, in a pandemic like this, everyone loses, right? Everyone loses. But in relative terms, there are winners and losers, right? So this is slightly off the topic, but I was reading this interesting article talking about in the United States, apparently one of those relative winners is COBOL developers, right? For those who don't know, that COBOL stands for Common Business Oriented Language, which is a 40-year-old programming language.
Yes, I was going to say that's old, isn't it?
It is very old. It definitely, I didn't learn that when I was studying in university, and many people didn't learn that at all, right? But because of COVID-19 and the government have to make a lot of changes to legacy systems in the employment space, right, in
Right.
state government. So they had high demand for those programmers to come back and make maintenance tasks or improvement or bug fixes. Just an interesting example of things happening in the COVID-19 world. Look, I think overall the impact of COVID-19 to startups is complicated. I think we probably still need to wait for some very solid numbers to come out in the next coming months to actually have a holistic view, right? To have a full picture view of the impact. Just from the conversations that I have had with founders, there are definitely a lot of challenges, right? For example, from a cash flow perspective, in particular, leads and opportunities, we see a quite a big slowdown in terms of discretionary spending in the industry, right? Um, Look, on the flip side, I think there's small silver lining here, as I mentioned, that many RegTech spendings are actually non-discretionary, right? For example, during crisis, KYC still need to happen, right? And a regulated entity still need to submit their regulatory reports, right? So there's a small silver lining here
Yeah.
from opportunity perspective. We also see a huge challenge in people change, right? Um,
Yes.
we had discussion about this. We organized a webinar to really help startup to navigate through people change around
Yes.
retaining talent, around really how to go through this difficult time without so much impact to their people.
Yes.
Look, I think overall it's a incredibly difficult time for the RegTech community, right, at the moment.
Yes.
However, I do think there's a big silver lining ahead, right? In KPMG, we see the pandemic has four different stages: uh, reaction, resilience, recovery, and reality, right? New reality.
Mm. And what stage are
Um,
we at right now?
we've definitely gone past the reaction stage where everyone panics and don't know how to react.
Mm.
Um, Resilience stage is where we see restrictions start become loosened, right? Consumer demand begin to return very slowly because of lost wages, because of investment losses, etc. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and the recovery stage is when we see anxieties passes, right?
Mm.
Hiring, investment, consumer sentiment cautiously improve. I think, in my view, we are somewhere between the resilience and recovery stage at the moment. The last stage we see is new reality, right? There's many aspects to it. Um, but as I mentioned in a recently in a different event, that there will be a surge in digital transformation activities across the industry, and RegTech as an enabler to digital transformation will definitely play a key part.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So, how important do you think it is right now to be taking a global view?
It has always been important, but I think it's more important now than ever. Um, Look, I think in RegTech space, many problems are fundamentally global problem, right? I can give you a good story, embarrassing story, right, from one of my friends recently around digital identity, one of my favorite topic. So what he did, he went to do shopping on a website. He told me it's a Hong Kong website, and the website basically asked him to identify himself, right, in in somewhat embarrassing way, right. So he basically have to hold his ID, and take a selfie, right? No smiling, take a selfie, and send the picture, and also a picture for his ID to this website. It's probably stored in a dodgy server somewhere, right? So that's one experience he had. But what's worse is a week later he was shopping on a different website, and he believed it was a Singaporean website, and he had to do the exact same thing, right, to identify himself by taking selfie with the photo ID in front of him, right? So that's just a good example that him is him, right? He doesn't change his identity from country to country, but the technology implementation is really behind. Look, when we talk about global view, I want to take half a step back here. I'm thinking global has three different elements. The first element is about global information sharing, right? It is hard to know what is happening in the RegTech space at a global level. Information are everywhere. In Australia, I think you guys, the RegTech Association, is doing a good job in terms of being the source of information in Australia. But globally, you really need to know where to look. Right? You need to know where to look in US. You need to know where to look in Asia, where to look in UK and Europe. It's just hard for people to get up-to-date information about RegTech, right? What made this thing more complicated is that there's the core RegTech information, but also there are the surroundings, right? Such as new regulation, such as technology in financial services, new advancement in artificial intelligence, data governance, etc., etc. So all these are important for to connecting the dots, right? This is exactly the reason that I decided to make a global weekly RegTech newsletter about 16 weeks ago. But that's just one small piece of the puzzle, right? So we definitely want to see more of this kind of open sharing information globally. The second, I think the second element of this global view is around about regulator collaboration, right? So definitely seeing a lot of positive things happening recently in this space, especially with GFIN, right, which is International Network of Financial Regulators. Must commend ASIC for taking lead on this particular topic. We've also seen news about the Nordic regulators, right, agree on sharing anti-money laundering information. So that's another good example of collaboration between regulators. I always think this is a regulation and regulator, a very interesting space for discussion in the RegTech space. If you think about in the past, right, RegTech is very regional, and one of the main reasons is that different jurisdictions have different regulations, right? But in recent years, the trend we have seen is that there are many similar regulations globally, right? So for example, we have a GDPR, right? Then Australia had the Privacy Act, yeah, which is, different but similar regulations, right?
Yes.
In the data space, you have BCBS 239. The Australian version is CPG 235. You have PSD2, CDR in Australia, right? So I think those similarity in regulations really presents a huge opportunity, right, to tackle RegTech problems at a global level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I take your point on the GFIN is a really great vehicle for that collaboration to happen, and that almost that standardization that we are starting to see emerge as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last element I think is around global client engagement. So this including local to global, including global to local, right? So that means local solution providers should really think about global clients. And at the same time, local regulated entities should also be thinking about global RegTech companies, global solution providers. right? This is currently happening, right? We definitely see this currently happening, but on a very ad hoc basis, right? I think it should happen in a much more holistic way. Um, Having said that, we know global is hard, right? It's a very hard problem. Um, we need to think about the many challenges. We need to think about distribution. We need to think about procurement. We need to think about data privacy, data sovereignty, those kind of hard issues. And also at the same time, when we put a COVID-19 lens on it, COVID-19 will be a setback for globalization journey in some areas, right? For example, resilience, business resilience, for example, supply chain, right? There's more companies thinking about, should we have my call center locally, for example. However, I do think a sector-focused global collaboration will accelerate. So what I mean is a specific sector will be um, going on accelerated global journey um, faster than other sectors, right? For example, as we mentioned, regulation is one of them, right? In KPMG, we predict there will be a Basel-like, a new Basel-like regulation coming out off the back of COVID-19. Technology is another sector, right? So we definitely see huge amount of collaboration in technology in different sectors, such as medical, right? Medical research, etc. So RegTech is interesting one because RegTech is the intersection between regulation and technology.
Absolutely, and can be quite sector agnostic, right? So any
exactly.
regulated vertical can benefit from RegTech, not just financial services.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly why I think it's more important than ever for us to take a global view in terms of RegTech. And in addition to that, I must say Australia is in a good position because we are coming out of COVID-19 earlier, right? Touch wood, earlier than other countries, right? And that really put us in good position to lead some of those global thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. So in order to wrap up, Will, what's your takeaway? And if our audience is made up of RegTech firms, what might be the takeaway for them? And if our audience has some regulated entities, what's your key message that you'd like to leave them with today?
Look, I've spent a lot of time talking to founders in the RegTech space, and I must admit there are many brilliant companies, brilliant founders have really lots of good thinkings. Um, I would one humble recommendation I would want to make to them is around during this crisis, really important to have a global view, right? Have a global strategy, right? And that strategy um, should still be focused on their strength, which is product, which is um, product, which is platform, which is technology, right? Um, if you think about in the RegTech company space, uh, they have they have technology, they have people, platform, product, but what they do not necessarily have is client relationship. What they do not necessarily have is distribution, right? So I guess my recommendation here is focus on the value add bit, focus on product, focus on the technology, and partnering with other companies on distribution, including global distribution. Um, um, Really, I think that's that's an important thing to do. Um, from a regulated entity space, I encourage regulated entities to really be proactive in terms of digital transformation, right? Really be radically open-minded about using RegTech solutions, local and global. At the same time, this is important. At the same time, technology space change rapidly all the time. All the devils is in the details, right? So I think it's really important for the senior executive and board members of regulated entities to not only understand the benefit of RegTech provide, but also understand the risks of using some of the technologies and take a balanced view.
Well, that's really great, Will. You know, as you were talking, there were a lot of words emerging that started with C, and we started traversing, talking about things like COBOL. I never thought that we'd ever be talking about that again. Then we talked about, you know, how important it is for RegTech founders, you know, to preserve their cash flow right now, focus on their product and their technology, and look for that all-important global distribution. And for regulated entities to be open-minded, and I guess you know, it's one of the things that the RegTech Association can offer regulated entities, to come into a safe place to actually see what some of the opportunities in fact look like, and see what some of the solutions look like, without having to necessarily face-to-face all of the vendors individually. You can come in and have a bit of a look around particular themes, and that's you know, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that kind of safe place to come and, you know, have a look. So that's a good starting point for those out there who would like to come and do that. Please engage with us. Our web address is www.regtech.org.au. Consider even coming to join us as a member. Organisations like KPMG and Will today are given these opportunities because of their membership of the association, and this is how we can go forward to make you know, this industry very strong, not only in Australia but globally. And you know, to the points that I made right at the very beginning, this is about accelerating the adoption of RegTech, and please come and consider joining us in this global centre of excellence. So Will, I thank you very much for your time today. It's been great to have you as our first guest, and I look forward to doing many more of these. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Deborah. Happy to have a continuation of any conversation we had today with anyone. To reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, that's a great tip. Thanks, Will. I'll speak to you again soon.